Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Buying the best monitor for PS5 or best monitor for Xbox Series X or S is complicated. But in this video, we're going to break down everything that you need to know about console gaming monitors, including resolution, refresh rate, panel type, HDR, and more. And we'll go through specific product recommendations to get you the best PS5 monitor or best monitor for Xbox Series S and X. If you get value out of the video, please give it a like as it really helps out. With that, let's jump into it. First, we need to decide what resolution you want to game at. 1080p, 1440p, or 4K. The great news is that as of the March 2023 PS5 update, both the PS5 and Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X now support 1440p in addition to 1080p and 4K. So, the only dividing line between resolutions is budget and the power of your console. 1080p is great for budget-conscious gamers looking to spend between $150 and $250 depending on what features you're looking for. 1440p gaming monitors now start around $250 and can go up to $400 for a traditional panel, but can go above $1,000 for the newer OLED panels with their incredible contrast and amazing HDR. More on that when we talk about panel type. If you're looking for the best monitor for Xbox Series S, given its lower performance than the Xbox Series X or PS5, then 1440p, it's likely the sweet spot for you. Of course, 4K gaming monitors with the needed HDMI 2.1 outputs are much cheaper than previously, and they now start around $500 for good quality 28-inch monitors, $750 for larger panels like 43-inch, and OLED 4K gaming monitors and TVs now start around $900 and up. One quick note is that while higher resolution monitors can downscale, so a 4K gaming monitor can be set to 1440p or 1080p, lower resolution monitors will never be able to upscale their resolution. So a 1080p gaming monitor will never be able to do 1440p or 4K. For console, we want to make sure to get the right aspect ratio, which is called widescreen or 16:9, meaning that for every 9 pixels in height, we have 16 pixels in length. Now you will see monitors in the ultra-wide format, that's 21:9, or even super ultra-wide monitors like the Samsung Odyssey G9, but note that consoles do not support these formats natively, so these are only for PC gamers. So, focus on gaming monitors in the most common widescreen aspect ratio at 16:9. But what monitor size are you looking for? For 1080p gaming monitors, the size is generally 24-inch, 27-inch, or 32-inch. And note that while I've never found it to be an issue, some people feel that 32-inch 1080p looks a little fuzzier due to a lower pixel density. For 1440p gaming monitors, they generally come in 27-inch and 32-inch sizes for widescreen models. 4K gaming monitors and TVs come in a much wider variety of sizes, from 28-inch to 32-inch to 43-inch to 48-inch and larger. Refresh rate seems relatively straightforward for console. After all, the PS5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Series S all are capable of doing 120 Hz. Now you can think of that as the maximum of 120 FPS. But the critical thing that people get wrong is what kind of monitor you need to do that. First, we need a monitor that has at least a 120 Hz refresh rate. That is relatively easy to do as most gaming monitors are at least 120 Hz. But also don't overspend on a monitor that does 240 or 360 Hz just for the refresh rate, as your console will not be able to go above 120 Hz. Secondly, you need to get the right HDMI version for your monitor. If you want 120 Hz at 1080p, your monitor must have at least HDMI version 1.4 or better. If you want 120 Hz at 1440p, your monitor must have HDMI 2.0 or better. And if you want 120 Hz at 4K, your monitor must have the newer HDMI 2.1. The great news is that virtually every 1080p and 1440p gaming monitor on the market right now supports 120 Hz over HDMI at their native resolution. But at 4K, there are still 60 Hz monitors available for a cheaper price, and there are some older 4K high refresh rate monitors that do not offer HDMI 2.1. So make sure if you're buying a 4K gaming monitor that you're getting at least 120 Hz and HDMI 2.1. Be warned that while many TVs will go 120 Hz and possibly higher, a lot of TVs are still 60 Hz, so just make sure to check the specs on the TV that you buy. Let's touch on variable refresh rate, called VRR for short, and AMD FreeSync versus NVIDIA G-Sync. VRR is a technology which prevents screen tearing on both PC gaming and consoles. It syncs up the output between your gaming device and the monitor to do this. The two primary technologies used in gaming monitors for VRR are AMD FreeSync, which is extremely common, and NVIDIA G-Sync. Since both the PS5 and Xbox Series X consoles are made by AMD, you will be good with any FreeSync monitor. Note that many monitors that just list G-Sync compatibility are in fact FreeSync monitors, so if you're not sure, double check the monitor specs on the manufacturer's page. Note that HDMI 2.1 also offers VRR over the HDMI interface, so for those buying at 4K, you don't have to worry. And yes, you heard me correctly, the PS5 now does VRR at 1440p finally, after the March 2023 PS5 update, so just disregard any older information that you come across that says it doesn't. Response time is the time it takes for a pixel to go from one color state to another. Now these times are listed in milliseconds or ms for short, and the shorter the time the better, as it reduces motion blur and ghosting effects. Unfortunately, manufacturers list ridiculous times like 1 millisecond or even lower, which are pretty much just a lie for anything other than an OLED panel. More about that in just a moment. The only way to reliably get accurate response times is through trusted third-party reviews that use testing hardware. So anytime I refer to a response time in this video, I'm referring to an actual tested time and not the nonsense that the manufacturer lists on their Amazon page. Let's talk about panel type, because this is now a very important choice for console gaming monitors. For console gamers, there are effectively two panel types now. They're traditional IPS and VA panels that use LED technology, and the second category is the newer OLED monitors, which are starting to come down in price to the upper mid-range of gaming monitors. Let's tackle the first category first, the traditional IPS and VA panels. IPS panels are typically found in the flat monitors and generally have better color accuracy and viewing angles than VA panels, which are typically found in the curved monitors and have better contrast. Now, while monitors using these panels will advertise high dynamic range, HDR for short, the reality is very few of them deliver on those promises and are best suited for traditional, standard dynamic range, SDR for short, gaming. Either IPS or VA panels provide an excellent gaming experience, and the choice between VA and IPS mostly comes down to if you prefer a curved monitor or a flat one. Then there's the OLED panels, which are now available at 1440p and 4K in widescreen format. OLED panels can actually turn off individual pixels, so black looks amazing on them, and you don't get that slight light blur effect on darker scenes. Their response times are near instantaneous, so they virtually eliminate ghosting effects, and they have nearly infinite contrast, so everything really pops. In addition, OLED is capable of true HDR gaming, and it looks incredible. I personally play a PS5 on a 65-inch LG C1 OLED, so a slightly older OLED 120Hz panel, and it is absolutely amazing. And with prices on some OLED gaming monitors and TVs capable of 120Hz slipping down around the $800 range and below, OLEDs are now available to a much wider audience. All my recommendations are linked down in the video description by category, and we update these deals every couple days as things sell out and new deals pop up. So check out the video description for the current best deals. Deals listed with a fire emoji in front of it are particularly good ones in that category that might sell out or change. And if there are two fire emojis, that means it's a fantastic deal regardless of category. Let's jump into 1080p gaming monitors. If you have about $140 up to about $200 to spend, what should you be getting? And it's a real minefield out there right now because there are so many terrible budget 1080p monitors that you don't want to buy. Check out those links down in the video description for what we're currently recommending, because the other challenge is in 2023, like literally everything seems to be selling out for months at a time, and then we got to recommend something else. And right now, the monitor I would be recommending is the Gigabyte G24F. This is a 24-inch, 165 Hz. Remember, we only need 120 Hz, so 2 thumbs up there. 1080p gaming monitor. Now, this is an IPS flat panel, which a lot of people really like. If you don't like the curved monitors, that's fine. This is a relatively wide color gamut on it, and it has HDMI 2.0. Remember, we only need 1.4, but HDMI 2.0 is super nice to have that extra bandwidth just to make sure. And it's also a really great monitor for PC gaming if you want to use it DisplayPort for your PC gaming and you want to use the HDMI for your console. The other thing I do really like about this monitor, it comes with a couple of USB ports that you can charge your controllers off of. Super nice if you've got a lot of extra controllers on it. $149 right now. Now the price on this one will often range up to $170, $179. Still worth it at that price. It just happens to be on super sale as I'm filming this video. I would snap this thing up in a moment. Let me give you a couple of good alternatives. We've got the AOC C24G1A. Now this is a curved VA panel, but really phenomenal one. HDMI 2.0. Remember, VA panels are going to give you a little bit better contrast, a little bit deeper blacks in terms, especially in dark scenes. FreeSync on it, just like with the Gigabyte monitor. I will say there's no USB ports on it, so you're not going to be charging your controllers off of it. But again, $149, this is a really, really good deal. If you're looking for something a little bit bigger, 27-inch, the bad news is it seems like all the ones that I've been recommending at 27-inch completely sold out of the market right now, except for the Acer Nitro XZ270. Now you say, Jason, this is a 240 hertz refresh rate monitor. I thought we didn't want 240 hertz. We don't want to waste our money. Well, listen, it's only $199. I've been recommending this for esports on PC gaming, and right now it is the best 27-inch gaming monitor deal, either console or PC out there. I will give you my other alternatives in case they come back into stock. Remember to check those links down in the video description. But HDMI 2.0 kind of got everything that you need. It is a curved VA panel. It's got really good contrast on it and relatively low latency as well. This is one I would definitely check out. As an alternative, especially if you want flat IPS, check out the AOC 27G2 or AOC 27G2 SP. Now those have largely been sold out. That's why they're normally my top recommendation, and they usually sell for below $200. That's why I usually recommend them first. But at $225, and this is from a third-party seller, I believe, hopefully they do come back in stock, and if they do, go ahead and snap them up. These are great panels, great color gamut on it. These have been my top 1080p recommendations for a number of years. Note that there is one called the G2S model out there, and that is a totally different panel type than either the G2 or G2 SP. So just avoid the G2S. Super confusing AOC. I don't know why you do that to people. Another really great 1080p 27-inch alternative that is currently out of stock because it's selling for $271, which is just a ridiculous price for it. It's a Gigabyte M27F. And again, this usually sells for $199, sometimes $189, sometimes $209. Any of those prices, absolutely fine. $271 is way too much to spend on it. It's got HDMI 2.0. And the thing I really like about the M27F, which we have, by the way, is the KVM switches on it. That means you can plug a keyboard and mouse into the monitor itself and then use that across multiple devices without having to switch anything, which is super, super nice. It's got the USB Type-C on it. Overall, just kind of a really loaded and very, very modern gaming monitor. Well, let's jump into 1440p gaming monitors. Again, remember, links are down in the video description. And if you are an Xbox Series S owner, this is really the sweet spot for you. Honestly, if you have any of the consoles though, and you can't quite stretch up to get a 4K gaming monitor that does 120 hertz, this is still really good because the prices have come way, way down on 1440p gaming monitors. That's why I'm trying to not let you spend a lot on a 1080p monitor. I'd rather have you jump up to 1440p, especially now that the PS5 finally, after 2 years, not only supports 1440p natively, but you can use VRR on it. Huge, huge development for PS5. So let's jump into these monitors. Let's jump into the first recommendation, which is at the budget level. For those of you with about $200 to $250 to spend, I typically recommend the HP X27Q. Usually goes for about $210 to about $260. In that range, generally very much worth it. Right now, selling for $288. It just seems like it's out of stock right now at Amazon. Will come back into stock. It often goes out of stock. Very, very popular monitor. Really good panel on it. I'm aware that they did switch out the panel to one that's very, very close in overall performance. Low latency, 165 hertz refresh rate, and HDMI 2.0. Overall, if you're looking to get into 1440p, especially with that Xbox Series S, and you don't want to spend a ton of money, this is typically the monitor that I recommend. If you have a little bit more money to spend, there are panels that offer some more significant benefits in terms of picture quality, in terms of latency. One of those monitors, in fact, probably the monitor that I would recommend is the Gigabyte M27Q and the M27Q-P or M27Q-Pro. It's listed both ways. The M27Q, the slightly older version, absolutely fine for console, 165 hertz. The one thing I really like about this over the HP, not only is the panel itself slightly better, but it's got the KVM gaming switches, so you can plug a keyboard, a mouse, and you can use it across multiple devices if you want to do so. It's also got a couple of USB ports on it, so you can charge those controllers, which I know I really, really appreciate, as well as HDMI 2.0, flat IPS panel. panel. Looks really, really nice. Of course, here's the M27Q-Pro. What's the difference between the two? For console users, there's not really any difference, but if you do plan on ever using this with a PC for a desktop monitor, the text clarity on the Pro is quite a bit better. They changed the subpixel layout. Doesn't affect you on console, but if you want to also use this for a PC monitor, so you want to use it kind of dual purpose, I would invest the extra $29 here and pick up the M27Q-P or M27Q-Pro. It's listed both ways. Let me give you one quick alternative to those monitors because I know they're often out of stock or they're not even available in all markets, but one monitor I'm pretty sure is available in all markets. It's been out for quite a while and I've recommended for a long time is the Dell S2722DGM. I really hate the naming scheme for the Dell monitors, but there you go. This is a really nice 1440p gaming monitor, 27-inch. Now this is a curved VA panel, so it's going to have slightly better contrast. It's going to have slightly deeper blacks on it, especially in those kind of dark scenes, especially if you like playing those kind of, horror survival type games. $299 right now. You can often find this sometimes goes all the way down to $259. Anywhere between $259 and maybe $309 is the range I would look for. Now I will note that while it's got, HDMI 2.0, it's got AMD FreeSync Premium, all that's super nice, does not have the USB ports on it. So if that's kind of a selling point for you, this is more comparable maybe to the HP X27Q, kind of in the budget range. I would still reach up and grab that Gigabyte monitor over this one if those things are important to you. Let's quickly punch through some 32-inch recommendations. We're going to start with the Gigabyte M32QC. Note this is an actual VA panel and it is curved. This is not the same as the IPS Gigabyte we were just looking at. It's got narrower color gamut to it. It's got a little bit of backlight bleed to it. Nothing terrible. Overall though, very, very good panel if you only have $300 to spend and you definitely want that 32-inch and you want all that connectivity. You want all the USB connectivity. You want all the KVM switches. It's got USB-C on it. Really, really good monitor for the price at $299 over at Amazon. If you've got a little bit more to spend and you definitely want that flat IPS, a larger color gamut to it, look at the LG 32GN650B. This is a very, very good gaming monitor. Again, all these AMD FreeSync, all of them are going to be very, very similar in terms of those features. I will say this does not have like any of the USB connectivity to it. If that's a deal breaker for you, I've got another monitor that's more expensive, but for $346, you usually find this one kind of floating around that $350 price point over at Amazon, Newegg, and others. This is another really, really good option. Probably the best of the best, although right now it's selling for $500. You can often find this monitor up to $100 cheaper, more like $400, is the LG 32GP850-B. So remember to check those links down in the video description because the pricing on this monitor just super fluctuates all the time. But this has probably the best panel of any of the 32-inch that we just looked at. Really, really phenomenal on it. This is the Nano IPS version. Slight upgrade from the 32GN850B, which was the older model that you can still find out there for maybe about $100 less. It's got great ergonomics to it. It's got all the kind of rear connectivity that you'd come to expect, including all those USB ports to it. Overall, great panel. $500 is a little steep. I'd look to find it closer to $450 or even $400. Let's talk about 4K gaming monitors. Remember, links for everything are down in the video description. Check out pricing and availability currently and in your region. And at the budget level, I don't want to call these budget gaming monitors because they're actually very, very good gaming monitors. You can often find them now for $549. The price on 4K gaming has come down so significantly. Remember, these are still LED screens. These are not OLED screens. We will get to OLED. OLED prices have also come down, so it's kind of compressed everything that's not OLED right now. So you can find something like the Acer Predator XB283K. I just love these monitor names, don't you? For $549. Often you can find this even a little bit cheaper than that, but $549 is a very, very good price for it. I would snap it up at that price. AMD FreeSync Premium on it, 144 Hertz, so you're good at 120 Hertz. HDMI 2.1, which you absolutely need for 4K 120. Remember that. It's got USB Type-C and it's got a USB hub on it, just super, super nice. This has been my top recommendation in 2023 because some of the other models that I've often recommended that have almost identical performance have been a little bit more expensive. But let me walk you through some of those alternatives because the pricing does kind of flip-flop a little bit. Let's start off with the M28U, the Gigabyte M28U. Very, very similar performance. I will say one thing. While the Gigabyte M28U does boast HDMI 2.1, it is a slightly lower bandwidth and it does have a slight impact on console if you're trying to use HDR with 10-bit color. Now here's my response to that. It shouldn't matter because you should not be trying to do HDR on these monitors or any of the monitors we've talked about before. To me, HDR, there's one or two non-OLED monitors that do okay, but they're stupidly expensive. You want OLED. If you want HDR gaming, you want to go OLED, skip ahead in the video. But if this is your kind of price range, because this monitor you'll often find anywhere from that that $500 up to $600 price point with absolutely fine. It comes with the KVM gaming switches on it. Really, really good panel. The ASUS Tough Gaming VG28UQL1A, again, crazy names, right? This is another great monitor, very similar panel, very similar performance. Has been kind of insanely priced, although I just looked it up. It's now down to $599. If it gets down into where the Acer Predator is, again, I would not pick this over the Acer Predator. I'm just giving you some alternatives if you can't find that Acer Predator or the Gigabyte monitor. But any of these gaming monitors are fantastic deals between $499 and $599 currently. What if you want to go to 32 inch? What if you want to go to 43 inch, 48 inch, you know, up? Well, there aren't tons of options that are non-OLED, and that's actually good because the price on OLED has come down to the point where it's compressed some of these larger format monitors. So let's talk about what some of your options are here. The Gigabyte M32U, very, very good option, $679. Basically, it's the M28U, except it's a 32 inch panel. There's a curved VA panel that's a version of this, usually runs about $600. It's the M32UC. Another good option you can often find, doesn't quite have the same performance. Of course, we've got the Aorus FV43U. This is a monitor we've continued to recommend, 43 inch. It's basically everything that you want out of a gaming monitor. It's got the full bandwidth HDMI 2.1, which is nice. It's got the KVM switches. Linus from Linus Tech Tips, who was using this, I believe, as his main monitor for quite a while. He did a whole video on it. Great, great panel, especially for console. I will note, this is not a TV. Don't expect to get this and have TV functionality. It's only $729 after all. 144 hertz refresh rate. If you're looking for the kind of that big game room experience, this is definitely one I would take a look at. $729, I'd like to see this price a little closer to $699 because there are some good options in OLED coming right up. So let's talk about OLED panels, and we're going to focus entirely on 4K. Let's talk about why really quickly. I know you probably heard that there's 1440p OLED panels out there. Jason, what about those? Yeah, they're all $1,000 plus, and the reason is they're all 240 hertz or potentially even faster by the time you watch this video, and you don't need those for console. Remember, 120 is as fast as you can go. And why go 1440p for that price? Well, look at this. You can go 4K 48 inch screen for $799. That's how cheap 4K OLED has gotten. So I'd completely skip over that 1440p OLED unless those prices come way, way down. If so, check the links down in the video description. If the deals have come through, I will put them there. But I would focus number one on the Aorus FO48U. And if you can scrape together $800, you are going to be so impressed with this monitor. This uses the same panel as the LG C1 OLED monitor, the same TV that I use to game on our PS5. I got to tell you, the picture's absolutely phenomenal on it. The HDR looks incredible. Remember, OLED, it can turn off the individual pixels on there. The blacks look amazing. It just looks crisp all the time. It's got great connectivity to it. Obviously, it's got the HDMI 2.1. It's got AMD FreeSync on it, USB ports on it as well. It's got USB Type-C, and the audio on this panel is actually quite good. The audio on it, that's not something you say about most monitors. In fact, a lot of the monitors we talked about don't even have speakers because they're such an afterthought. But the audio on this is actually not bad for a monitor. Still would probably buy a soundbar or some speakers for it. But if this is all you want for a kind of a big gaming room experience, or even just on your desk and you want that OLED crispness, this is the one that I would grab. Let's talk about the best of the best of the best as far as I'm concerned for 4K OLED, and that is the LG C2. Now you could go with the LG C1, except it's all sold out. So the C2 is the current model. That being said, the C3 is starting to roll out right now. So what you're seeing is incredible deals on the C2 as they close it out. The C3 panel only slightly better and not really worth the huge price premium you're going to pay. And this is for a 48 inch version right now, $949. And it's a TV. So you get all the smart TV functionality. You don't get that with the Aorus monitor. It's just a monitor. We use the LG C1 OLED. This is a slightly better version of it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Everything I just said about the Aorus transfers over to this, and you get all the additional functionality, being able to use a TV. The speakers on this, again, not something you typically talk about with a TV or a monitor, because some of them don't even have it. Speakers on it are pretty good, and it actually has a simulated surround sound to it that sounds pretty nice. This is really where I would go. Now, $949 for the 48 inch version. I got to tell you, this is the first time I've seen the price that low. It's probably because the C3 is rolling out. I don't know if you're going to find it for that price. It can go up to $1,100, and I would would still buy it for up to $1,100. The 42 inch right now, 42 inch is actually more expensive. I don't know how that works, but it's about $1,000. That's usually what the 42 inch sells for. It's about $1,000. So there's probably a window of time right now as you're watching this video where they're going to close out the C2 and it's going to be a great deal for 6 to 8 months. And then the C3 is going to come in, and I'll leave links to the C3 when it becomes the dominant model. I will put that in the video description as well. There are some other 4K experiences out there that are potentially worth, but we're talking like $2,000+. Honestly, to me, for the price differential there, this is what I would go. I would just get a bigger version of this rather than going for a more expensive panel at the same size. Remember, check out those links down in the video description for current pricing and availability and the best deals, as we'll update them every couple days. And if you got value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.